The Arab chains, worse than white masters. You wake up in chains, knees burning in hot sand, a metal collar so tight you taste blood every swallow. 12 girls linked like animals. One man steps forward, he forces your mouth open, fingers deep in your throat, checking teeth, tongue, eyes, like livestock at auction. This is not the end. This is only the beginning of 13 centuries of erasure. The last morning, Amina woke before the sun. She always did. The air in her village smelled of dry earth and smoke. Her mother's voice usually called her name softly. Amina, come help with the millet. But this morning there was only silence. She stepped outside the mud hut. The sky was still dark purple. Chickens scratched in the dust. Her little brother Isa slept curled against the wall. Amina smiled at him. She bent down and kissed his warm forehead. Then she heard it. A low rumble, like far thunder, but wrong. Hooves. Many hooves. Her father appeared from the shadows, spear in hand. Hide, he whispered. Take Isa. Run to the granary. Amina grabbed her brother. He woke crying. Too late. Men on camels burst into the village like a storm. They wore dark turbans and carried curved swords. Shouts in Arabic mixed with screams. Gunshots cracked the air. Amina ran. Isa slipped from her arms. A rider leaned down, scooped the boy up like a sack of grain, and threw him across the saddle. Isa screamed her name once, Amina. Around her, the village burned. Huts collapsed in orange flames. Her mother lay face down in the dirt. Her father's spear was broken beside him. He stared at the sky with empty eyes. The raiders rounded up the survivors. Girls and young women were pushed into one line. Boys old enough to walk went with them. Older men and women who could not run fast enough were killed. Amina counted 11 other girls chained to her, all crying, all shaking. One prayed in whispers. Another stared straight ahead, already empty. The raiders tied the chain to a camel. The camel moved. The girls had to follow or be dragged. They walked out of the village as the sun rose. Behind them, black smoke rose like a funeral pillar. Amina kept looking back until the flames were only aglow. She did not know it yet, but this was the easiest day of the rest of her life. The chain pulled tight. Amina stumbled forward. Her bare feet sank into hot sand that felt like coals under her soles. Each step burned deeper. The rope around her neck chafed raw skin already. They walked all day, no water, no food, only the sun climbing higher, turning the sky white hot. The raiders rode ahead on camels, laughing, smoking, sometimes singing in low voices. One of them carried Isa tied across the saddle like baggage. Amina could see her brother's small hands gripping the leather. He no longer cried. His eyes were wide and glassy. By noon, the first girl fell. She was maybe 14, thin legs shaking. She dropped to her knees, whispering, I can't anymore. The chain jerked her forward. She screamed as the collar cut into her throat. A raider rode back, whip in hand. He struck her twice across the back. She crawled. She stood. She walked again. Amina kept her eyes on the ground. Step, step, step. Count them. 100, 200. It kept her mind from breaking. At sunset, they stopped in a dry wadi. The raiders watered the camels first. Long gulps from leather bags. Then the girls. A single tin cup passed down the line. Each girl got 3 sips. Amina's turn came. The water tasted of dust and metal. She let it sit on her cracked tongue before swallowing. She wanted to cry, but tears would waste water. They tied the chain to a thorn bush. The girls huddled together for warmth as night fell cold and sudden. Sand radiated heat away fast. Amina pressed against the girl next to her. Fatima, she learned later. Fatima was from a village 2 days' walk away. She had a baby at home, a boy, 3 months old. Fatima whispered, Do you think they'll kill us? Amina shook her head. Not yet. They want us alive, for selling. Fatima's shoulders shook. Silent sobs. Amina held her hand. Their fingers laced together through the chain links. In the dark, one of the raiders came close. He carried a lantern. He stopped in front of a girl named Zainab. She was the prettiest, long neck, high cheekbones. He lifted her chin with the tip of his knife. "Look at me," he said in broken Hausa. Zainab stared at the ground. He slapped her hard. Blood trickled from her lip. He laughed again. Then he moved on. Amina closed her eyes. She tried to remember her mother's voice, the way she sang while grinding millet. The song was gone. Only the sound of chains clinking in the wind remained. Morning came too soon. The raiders kicked them awake. No breakfast, just the chain pulling again. On the third day, the first death happened. A girl named Mariam, older, maybe 20, collapsed at midday. Her lips were black and split, her tongue swollen so big it pushed out of her mouth. She begged in a croak, "Water, please." The raider in charge looked at her once. He shook his head. Too slow, worthless now. He cut the chain link that held her. Mariam tried to stand, her legs folded. She reached for the others. No one could reach back. The caravan moved on. Amina looked back once. Mariam sat alone in the sand, small and shrinking. She raised one hand, waving weakly. Then the heat haze swallowed her. Amina felt something inside her crack. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet snap, like dry wood. She kept walking. They still had weeks of desert ahead. After 23 days, the sand gave way to stone. Low hills rose like broken teeth. In a shallow valley between them stood the camp. Tents of black goat hair, wooden stakes driven into the ground, a smell of smoke, sweat, and something metallic that made Amina's stomach turn. The raiders shouted orders. The chain was unhooked from the camel. The girls were driven forward like goats to market. They passed rows of other captives, men, boys, women from different raids. Some sat staring at nothing. Others rocked back and forth, murmuring prayers that had lost meaning. Amina searched the faces for Isa. She saw him at last, tied to a post near the men's section. His cheeks were hollow. His eyes found hers. For a second he smiled, small and broken. Then a guard shoved him down. The girls were separated from the boys. Amina felt the chain pull one last time before it was cut. Her wrists bled where the rope had bitten deep. She rubbed them, feeling the raw skin sting. They were herded into a large tent. Inside, the air was thick. A fire burned in the center. 3 men waited, older, dressed in cleaner robes. One held a ledger. Another had a small knife and a bowl of dark liquid that smelled like herbs and blood. "Line up, the ledger man said in Arabic. A translator repeated it in broken local tongues. "Men first, strong ones." Amina watched through the tent flap as boys and men were pulled out one by one. The healthy young ones, 15 to 25, were pushed to the left. Older men or the weak were shoved to the right. The right group was smaller. They were taken away quickly. Amina heard distant shouts, then silence. The left group, the ones kept alive, was led to another tent behind a screen of blankets. She could not see inside, but she could hear. First came the screams, high animal screams that tore the air, then low moaning, like wounded cattle. The smell of blood grew stronger, mixing with smoke and fear sweat. One boy was dragged back out. His face was gray, blood soaked the front of his torn trousers. He clutched between his legs with both hands. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Guards carried him to a mat and left him there, shaking. Amina turned away. Fatima beside her vomited bile onto the dirt floor. No one helped her up. The ledger man called the girls next. They were made to stand in a row. The examiners walked slowly down the line. Hands lifted chins. Fingers pulled down lower lips to check teeth. One man pressed a girl's stomach, feeling for softness. Another lifted skirts without shame, inspecting legs, hips, skin for marks or disease. When they reached Amina, the tallest examiner stopped. He was missing 2 fingers on his left hand. He tilted her head back. His thumb pressed her lower lip down hard. She tasted blood again. He nodded once. Healthy, good teeth, young enough. Oh, he moved on. They were not touched further that night. Not yet. The examiners finished their work and left. The girls were chained again, this time to iron rings in the ground inside the tent. They lay on thin mats, no blankets. The fire died to embers. In the dark, Zainab, the pretty one, whispered, They cut the boys. I heard it. They take everything so they can't have children, so no more like us." Amina said nothing. She stared at the tent roof. A small hole let in starlight. She counted the stars until her eyes burned. Outside, the moaning from the boys' tent continued, low, endless, like wind through cracked stone. Sometimes a new scream cut through, sharp, then fading into sobs. Amina pressed her hands over her ears. It did not help. She thought of Isa. Was he in that tent? Had they already taken the knife to him? The thought made her chest hurt so much she could not breathe. She curled into a ball. Fatima reached out and held her. They shook together in silence. Dawn came gray and cold. The raiders kicked the girls awake again. "A market tomorrow," the translator said. "Oh, clean yourselves. Look valuable." A bucket of water was thrown over them. They scrubbed with sand. No soap, no mercy. Amina looked at her reflection in the last puddle. Her eyes were different, empty, like the others. She did not recognize the girl staring back. The sun was merciless when they reached the city. Walls of white stone rose from the sand like bones. The air smelled of salt, spices, and fear. Amina's feet were blistered and black. Every step sent needles up her legs. The chain had been replaced with thinner iron links that clinked softly, almost politely. They entered through a gate guarded by men with long rifles. Inside, the streets were narrow and crowded. Merchants shouted prices in Arabic, Berber, Turkish. Camels groaned. Children ran between legs selling dates and water. The market square was huge. Tents shaded long rows of captives. Men stood on wooden platforms, arms tied behind backs. Women and girls waited in shaded pens behind thin curtains. Buyers walked slowly, hands behind backs, eyes sharp like hawks. The girls from Amina's chain were pushed into one pen. A woman with a stick prodded them to stand straight. "Chin up, shoulders back, look healthy," she hissed in broken Hausa. Amina obeyed. She stared at the ground. Her dress was rags now, torn, filthy, stained with sweat and blood. She felt naked, even clothed. The first buyers arrived. Rich men in silk robes, merchants with gold rings. One was a fat man with small eyes. He carried a fan of peacock feathers. He stopped in front of Zainab, lifted her chin, turned her face left, right, pulled her lip down, nodded. 300 dirhams, he said. The seller laughed. 500. Ethiopian blood in her, rare. They haggled. Zainab stood still as stone. Her eyes were dry, no tears left. Amina was next. A tall man in black robes approached. He smelled of rosewater and tobacco. He circled her slowly, touched her arm, testing muscle, pressed her stomach, lifted her skirt just enough to see her legs. Amina flinched. He smiled thinly. Good hips, strong, for the house. He spoke to the seller. 400. The seller shook his head. She's young, fertile. 550. The man shrugged. 450 final. Coins changed hands. Heavy clink in a leather pouch. Amina was pulled out of the pen. A new rope went around her wrists. She looked back once. Fatima was still in the line. Their eyes met. Fatima mouthed something. Amina could not hear it. Maybe, "Be strong." Maybe, "I'm sorry." Then a curtain fell between them. The buyer led her through side streets. 2 guards walked behind. They entered a large house with high walls, a courtyard with a fountain, orange trees, the sound of women laughing somewhere inside. Inside the women's quarters, older slaves took her. They stripped her rags away without a word, bathed her in cold water from a copper basin, scrubbed her skin with rough cloth until it bled in places, oiled her hair, gave her a thin cotton dress, clean but so sheer it hid nothing. They braided her hair in the style the household liked. One woman whispered, "Don't fight, it only hurts more." Amina was led to a small room, a low bed, a barred window looking onto the courtyard, the door locked behind her. She sat on the floor, knees to chest. She rocked slowly, back and forth, back and forth. Night fell. The house grew quiet. Then footsteps. The door opened. Her new owner stood there, black robe open at the chest. He looked at her the way a man looks at a new horse, satisfied, pleased with his purchase. He stepped inside, closed the door. Amina pressed against the wall. He spoke softly in Arabic. She did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. He reached for her. She did not scream. Screaming would bring nothing. She closed her eyes, thought of her mother's song, the millet grinding, the firelight on her face. The song would not come. When it was over, he left without a word. Amina curled on the bed, blood between her legs. Tears finally came, hot, silent, endless. She whispered Isa's name into the dark. She whispered her mother's name. She whispered her own name over and over so she would not forget it. Outside, the fountain dripped, steady, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. She did not sleep. She waited for morning, for whatever came next, because something always came next. Time did not pass in days anymore. It passed in seasons of silence. Amina became Layla. That was the name they gave her on the first night. She learned to answer to it quickly. If she hesitated, the back of a hand reminded her. The house was large and cool. Marble floors, high ceilings painted with stars. She cleaned them on her knees every morning. She cooked rice with saffron. She carried trays of tea to men who never looked at her face. She learned Arabic words one by one like swallowing stones. Words for yes, master. Words for I obey. Words she hated most. After 6 months, her belly grew. The other women noticed first. They touched it gently when no one watched. One older slave, Halima, whispered, "It will be a boy. Pray for a boy." Amina did not pray. She had forgotten how. When the pains came, they locked her in a small room with Halima and 2 midwives. The labor lasted 2 days. She bit a cloth to keep from screaming. Screaming disturbed the household. When the child finally came, it was a boy. Small, dark-skinned, crying weakly. They cut the cord, wrapped him in clean linen. The master came once to look. He nodded. "Healthy," he said. Then he left. They named the boy Karim. Amina held him at night when the house slept. She sang the millet song to him, the one her mother used to sing. The words were still there, buried deep. She whispered them into his tiny ear so he would know something of her before the world took it away. Karim grew fast. By 2, he ran through the courtyard chasing butterflies. By 4, he spoke Arabic perfectly. He called the master father. He called Amina Layla. He did not know her real name. She never told him. The master had other women. Younger ones came and went. Some bore children. Some disappeared after a few years, sold quietly when their beauty faded or their bodies tired. Amina stayed because of Karim. A child born to a slave mother could not be sold easily. Islamic law said so, but law was only paper. The master could change his mind any day. Years turned into 7, then 10. Amina's hair began to gray at the temples. Her hands cracked from lye soap. Her back bent from carrying water jars. She looked in the polished brass mirror one morning and did not recognize the woman staring back. The girl from the village was gone. Only Layla remained, quiet, obedient, empty. Karim was 12 now, tall for his age, strong. He learned to read from a tutor. He learned swords from the guards. He laughed easily. He dreamed of traveling to Cairo, to Baghdad. He never asked about the scar on his mother's wrist, the rope burned from the chain long ago. He never asked why she sometimes stared at the horizon as if waiting for someone who would never come. One evening, the master called her to his room. He was older now, heavier, slower. He looked at her with something almost like regret. "You have served well," he said. "Karim is a good son." Then he told her, "I will free you when I die. You and the boy. It is written in my will." Amina bowed her head. "Thank you, master." Inside, nothing moved. Freedom on paper meant nothing when your name, your language, your songs had been erased. That night she held Karim while he slept. His breathing was steady, his skin warm against hers. She whispered her real name into his hair, Amina. Just once. He stirred, but did not wake. She cried then, quiet, shaking sobs she had not allowed since the desert. Not for herself, for the boy who would grow up never knowing he came from a village that burned. She cried for the children who would come after him, children who would look Arab, speak Arabic, pray in mosques built on sand that once held African bones, children who would never hear the stories of the chains, never know why their skin was darker than most, never ask where the missing millions went. Amina pressed her forehead to Karim's. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Outside, the fountain still dripped, steady, unchanging, like time itself. She closed her eyes. The millet song came back, faint but clear. She sang it softly until sleep took her. For the first time in years, she dreamed of home, of her mother calling her name, of Isa running through the millet stalks, laughing, of a life that had not been stolen. When she woke, the dream was gone. Only the house remained, and the silence inside her grew deeper still. The master died on a morning in late spring. The house smelled of incense and rosewater. Servants whispered in corners. Karim, now 16, stood tall in white mourning robes. He read the will aloud in a steady voice. Freedom, for Layla, Amina, and for himself. The household nodded. Some cried crocodile tears, others looked relieved. Amina stood at the back of the room, hands folded, eyes down. She heard the words, felt nothing. Freedom was just another word now, like home or mother. They gave her a small pouch of coins, enough to rent a room in the old quarter, enough to buy bread for a year if she was careful. Karim hugged her once, quick, awkward. "I'll visit," he said. "I'll make sure you're cared for." He called her Layla. He had never called her anything else. She left the house that afternoon. No chains, no collar, just a simple black dress and sandals that did not hurt her feet anymore. She walked through the streets of Tripoli, past the market square where she had once stood on display. The pens were still there. New girls waited behind curtains. New buyers circled. The fountain still dripped in the distance. She found a small room above a bakery, one window, one bed, a clay pot for water. She sat on the floor the first night. No one came, no one knocked. The silence was complete. Days became weeks. She cooked simple meals, bread, olives, dates. She walked to the sea sometimes, watched waves crash white against black rocks. The water was endless, like the desert had been. She thought of Mariam left behind in the sand, of Isa's small hand waving goodbye, of Fatima's last look through the curtain. She wondered if any of them still breathed. Karim visited twice. The first time he brought cloth and money. He spoke of his studies, his friends, a possible marriage. He looked like his father now, tall, broad-shouldered, skin lighter than hers. He did not ask about the village. He did not ask about the chain marks still faint on her wrists. He left quickly, promised to come again soon. He never did. Months turned to years. Amina grew thin. Her hair turned fully gray. Her hands trembled when she poured water. She rarely spoke to neighbors. They called her the quiet one from the big house. They did not know her story. She did not tell it. One evening, she sat by the window. The sun set red over the sea. She held the last thing she owned from before, a small braided cord her mother had tied in her hair the night before the raid. The fibers were frayed now, almost dust, but still there. She pressed it to her lips, whispered her real name one last time, Amina. Then she let the cord fall into the street below. It drifted down like a dry leaf. A child picked it up, looked at it curiously, then ran away laughing. Amina closed the window. She lay on the bed. The room was dark, no stars visible tonight. She thought of the millions who had walked before her, the bones in the Sahara, the screams in the castration tents, the children born into houses that swallowed their mothers' names, the bloodlines that ended not with a sword, but with time and forgetting. She closed her eyes. The millet song came one final time, soft, faint, like wind through empty fields. She sang it in her mind until the notes faded. Her breathing slowed, then stopped. No one found her for 3 days. A neighbor smelled something wrong. They broke the door. She lay peaceful, hands folded, face turned toward the window. No note, no last words. Just a woman who had once been someone's daughter. They buried her in the poor quarter's graveyard. A simple stone, no name carved, just a number. Years later, the graveyard filled. New stones covered old ones. Children played among them. No one remembered the quiet woman who had lived above the bakery. No one asked where she came from. No one mourned the girl named Amina who had laughed once under a Sahel sky. The desert kept its silence. The sea kept washing the rocks. The chains were gone, but the erasure was complete. 14 million stories ended like this, not in fire, not in blood, in quiet, in absence, in the space where names used to be, and the world moved on.